Hello, my name is Sam Holliday, and the 20th century artist that I chose was Paul Caden. Now, my interest for Paul Caden comes from his hyper-realistic art style, along with his attention to detail. I too favor this style and attention to detail, and I also hoped that I would learn something about his art process and that I could apply to my own and further my art. Paul Caden was born in 1964 in Scotland, and he is best known for his graphite pencil drawings, which look like photographs. When wanting to capture all the details of an image, he uses nothing more than a pencil. Scottish artist bases his works off of photographs of objects or people that have caught his attention. Renowned today for his incredibly intricate and highly accurate urban landscapes featuring people, he invites the viewer to observe the world in which we inhabit, and in doing so, question whether or not we take the time to appreciate what we see around us. Intensifying the normal and creating scenes and portraits that have an emotional and social effect on the viewer. It's more than just representing reality in a new medium, but it is instead about creating an illusion of a new reality, one that merges a believable and lifelike appearance with emotion, social, cultural, and political themes. Reference material is a big factor when working. Paul Caden usually used self-took images or stock footage, manipulating them in Photoshop to add or take away from the image, and occasionally using CG elements. He also uses a grid method, laying the image out and sketching it to be more accurate with the placement. As the picture processes, he refers to his source material less and less, and the drawing eventually takes a life of its own. New York 12 was the piece I chose for Paul Caden to represent one of his landscape pieces, where you can see how carefully he rendered the image. And he took a picture of the sidewalk outside of this restaurant in New York, and I'm not sure if he used any kind of manipulation to fill the seats or not, because there wasn't much information I could find on this other than what he had posted on his Facebook. But when he was creating this piece, he used a headband, a magnifying headband that is typically used when doing jewelry, and I found that to be interesting. So he was really able to get in there and make really fine details. This piece is called Carney 2 and is a part of a series that he did of people living the Carney lifestyle. And for these people, they're returning the gaze and they're kind of like looking in the distance, which sort of kind of extends the view past the viewer and makes you wonder what they're looking at beyond you. And it makes you question reality. And I also wanted to use this image to represent some of his portraiture. The way that he crops his composition really shows you the influence of photography in his work. This piece was called The Watercolor Landscape, and I chose this piece because it was something that was different than his typical medium, and I found it interesting the way that he was able to manipulate the pigments and accomplish this realistic view of this landscape. Although it's not his typical medium, he still accomplished the details quite well. It gives you insight on other mediums that he has been dabbling around in, other than just graphite and charcoal, which is his typical medium, and what I believe to be more of a strong suit for him. For my artwork, I chose to do this piece called A Moment to Breathe. It is graphite on multi-medium paper, and it is a reminder that sometimes life can feel like it's smothering you with a sheet of plastic and pulling you in all different directions, and it's important to take a step back and to find a spot to breathe and recollect yourself moving forward. This is a hyper-realistic portrait which ties into Paul Caden's style, and also makes you question reality or the shared reality, and it's something that a lot of people can relate to, and that's where I got my inspiration. Now, typically Paul Caden uses the grid method, but in this piece I freehanded it instead of using the grid method, and I photoshopped in my brain the elements that I wanted to be in certain spots, and then I sketched it out and just sort of kind of veered away from my original source materials. In conclusion, I found that mine and Paul Caden's processes were quite similar in the stance of using self-took images and stock images, working from photographs, and using those references in a manipulated fashion. And then as the image starts to process and come together, I stop looking at my references as much and just let the piece come to life on its own. I also feel like traditional artists are overlooked and underappreciated because nowadays a lot of things are being pushed towards digital. So I feel like it was a lot harder to find information on 20th century artists that are more current because they're not as established in their work yet. And that hyper realistic art takes time, patience, and skill. It's something that if you practice a lot on, you can become better at, but it's definitely something that involves patience. And I enjoy the quality of the thought that goes behind his works because it's not just recreating an image that he took, but it is a question for us as viewers and to view his work and wonder what it's about and what is it trying to say, and like what is its purpose or its meaning that it's trying to convey. And in my work, I feel like I question that reality and make that connection. That's all. Thank you. Any questions?